After years of covering everyone's expenses while being treated like the family disappointment, my mother stood up at my brother's wedding and announced that I was just here out of pity. I waited until the reception ended, then sent one email that cut off $4,000 monthly in support and revealed their bankruptcy to the entire extended family. Before I dive into this story of family exploitation and the most satisfying financial revenge imaginable, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button if you've ever been treated like a walking ATM by people who should have valued you, and subscribe to True Revenge for more stories of justice served with precision. My name is Rachel, I'm 35 years old, and for nearly 8 years I was my family's secret financial lifeline while being treated like their greatest disappointment. This story begins with my misguided sense of family loyalty and ends with the most calculated revenge that left them scrambling to rebuild their entire financial foundation. I come from what most people would call a close-knit family in suburban Detroit. My parents, Robert and Linda, raised 4 children with traditional values about family supporting family. My older brother Michael was always the golden child star athlete, successful in business, married to his college sweetheart with 2 perfect kids. My younger sister Jennifer was the creative free spirit who could do no wrong, even when her artistic pursuits never quite paid the bills. And then there was my twin brother David, who had struggled with addiction and employment but was always welcomed back with open arms. I was the responsible one. The one who went to college on academic scholarships, graduated with a finance degree, and built a steady career as a senior financial analyst. I was also, apparently, the one everyone expected to solve problems while receiving no recognition for doing so. Started innocently enough during the 2016 recession when my father's construction business hit a rough patch. He'd built Robert Chen Construction from nothing, employing 15 people and supporting families throughout our community. When several major contracts fell through simultaneously, he was facing bankruptcy. "Rachel, honey, I hate to ask," my father said during a family dinner, his voice heavy with shame, "but could you help us with the mortgage payment this month? Just until things turn around." I was 27, single, and making good money with minimal expenses. The mortgage payment was $2,400, manageable for me but apparently impossible for parents who had always seemed financially stable. "Of course, Dad," I replied without hesitation. "Family takes care of family." That phrase would haunt me for the next 8 years. What I thought would be a temporary loan to help my parents through a difficult period became my permanent, unacknowledged role as the family's financial foundation. The monthly mortgage payments continued, justified by ongoing business struggles that somehow never quite resolved despite my father landing new contracts. Then my mother developed diabetes and needed expensive medication that insurance didn't fully cover. Another $400 monthly obligation that somehow fell to me. When Jennifer decided to pursue her dream of becoming a professional artist, she needed studio space, supplies, and living expenses while she found her artistic voice. The family collectively agreed that supporting Jennifer's dreams was important, which translated to me covering $800 monthly for her various needs. David's addiction recovery required ongoing support, therapy, medication, rent assistance when he couldn't hold jobs, car repairs, and countless other expenses that always seemed to land on my credit card. Even Michael, despite his apparent success, regularly needed help with his kids' private school tuition or unexpected medical bills that his insurance didn't cover. By 2022, I was quietly subsidizing my entire extended family to the tune of approximately $4,000 per month. Nearly half my take-home pay went to supporting people who had somehow convinced themselves they were entitled to my earnings. The psychological impact was devastating. Every family gathering involved subtle reminders of how I needed to contribute more, be more involved, care more about family priorities. Despite literally keeping them financially afloat, I was consistently criticized for being selfish or distant. "Rachel never brings anything to family dinners," my mother would complain to my siblings, apparently forgetting that I was paying for the house where those dinners were held. "She's always working, never makes time for what's really important," my father would add, ignoring the fact that I was working extra hours to generate the income that covered his mortgage. The most infuriating pattern was how my siblings were praised for their generosity when they contributed anything at all. When Michael brought a bottle of wine to Christmas dinner, he was celebrated for his thoughtfulness. When Jennifer painted a small canvas as my mother's birthday gift, she was lauded for her creativity and love. Meanwhile, I was quietly transferring thousands of dollars monthly to various family members while being treated like the family disappointment who couldn't even be bothered to call home enough. The breaking point came at David's wedding in June 2024. David had met Sarah through his recovery program, and their relationship had been a bright spot in his journey towards stability. I was genuinely happy for him and had, of course, quietly contributed $3,000 toward wedding expenses that the family couldn't afford. The wedding was held at a beautiful venue overlooking Lake Huron, with 150 guests including extended family, friends from recovery, and Sarah's large supportive family. I attended alone as usual, wearing a dress I'd purchased specifically for the occasion. During the reception, there was a traditional moment where family members shared toasts and memories about the couple. Michael spoke beautifully about David's resilience and growth. Jennifer shared an emotional story about their childhood bond. My parents offered tearful words about their pride in David's recovery and their joy in welcoming Sarah to the family. When it came time for my toast, I stood up with my prepared remarks about David's strength and Sarah's positive influence on his life. But before I could speak, my mother stood up and gently took the microphone from my hand. "I think we've heard enough from the immediate family," she said with a smile that looked warm to the guests but felt ice-cold to me. "Rachel is here out of pity, really. We include her because she's technically family, but she's never been one to actually contribute to our family bonds." The room fell silent. 150 people stared at me as my mother continued her public humiliation. "Don't get me wrong, we love Rachel," she said, her voice taking on the tone she used when discussing disappointing relatives, "but she's always been more concerned with her career than with family relationships. She's here tonight because we didn't want her to feel completely left out." My father nodded approvingly. Jennifer and Michael looked uncomfortable but didn't contradict her. David, the groom whose wedding expenses I had partially funded, said nothing in my defense. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, holding my untouched champagne glass, as 150 people processed the information that I was the family charity case who had been included out of obligation rather than love. "Well," I said finally, my voice steady despite the humiliation burning in my chest, "I appreciate the honesty." I set down my glass, gathered my purse, and walked steadily toward the exit. No one called after me. No one followed to apologize or explain. They simply let me leave, probably relieved that the family obligation had removed herself from their celebration. I drove home in a strange state of calm. Public humiliation had been devastating, but it had also been clarifying. For 8 years, I had been interpreting my family's financial dependence as love and my support as investment in meaningful relationships. My mother's speech had revealed the truth. I wasn't family. I was a convenient ATM they kept around out of pity and obligation. That night, I sat in my home office and opened every account, spreadsheet, and financial record related to my family support. The numbers were staggering. Over 8 years, I had provided approximately $380,000 in direct financial support to my family. This didn't include gifts, travel expenses for family events, or the countless times I'd paid for dinners, groceries, and other expenses when we were together. I had single-handedly kept my parents in their home, funded Jennifer's artistic dreams, supported David's recovery, and subsidized Michael's children's education. I had done this while sacrificing my own financial security, delaying my own home purchase, and limiting my own life experiences to ensure they could maintain their lifestyles. And according to my mother, I was there out of pity. I spent the rest of the weekend developing what I came to think of as the nuclear option. Phase 1 involved immediately canceling all ongoing financial support. The mortgage payments, medical expenses, Jennifer's studio costs, David's therapy bills, everything would stop at the end of the current month. Phase 2 involved collecting documentation of every financial transfer I had made to family members over the past 8 years. Bank records, canceled checks, Venmo transactions, credit card payments made on their behalf. I had kept meticulous records for tax purposes, never imagining I'd need them for psychological warfare. Phase 3 was the most satisfying. I would expose their financial dependence to the same extended family that had witnessed my public humiliation. On Monday morning, I drafted an email to the 47 extended family members who had been at the wedding, including Sarah's family members who had heard my mother's speech. The subject line was simple: Financial Independence Update. The email began, "Hi everyone. I wanted to follow up on Mom's comments at David's wedding about my lack of contribution to our family relationships. She was absolutely right that it's time for me to step back and allow others to take on more responsibility for family care and support. Effective immediately, I will no longer be providing the financial support that has sustained our family for the past 8 years. I believe this change will allow everyone to develop the kind of meaningful family contributions that Mom values so highly. For transparency and to help with the transition, I've attached a summary of the support I've been providing." I then included a detailed spreadsheet showing every significant financial contribution I had made to each family member over the past 8 years. The document was professional, factual, and devastating. Parents, $230,000. Mortgage, medical, utilities, home repairs. Jennifer, $95,000, rent, studio supplies, living expenses. David, $85,000, therapy, rent, car payments, recovery support. Michael, $45,000, tuition, medical emergency expenses. The email continued, "I'm confident that the family will be able to manage these ongoing expenses through the meaningful contributions and family bonds that I apparently lack. I wish everyone the best in this transition to financial independence. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need contact information for financial counselors or bankruptcy attorneys, as I imagine the next few months may be challenging. With love and respect for your feedback. Rachel." I sent the email at 11 a.m. on Monday, then turned off my phone and went to work. The response was immediate and overwhelming. When I turned my phone back on at 6 p.m., I had 67 missed calls, 89 text messages, and 34 voicemails. My email inbox contained 23 messages from family members, most with subject lines like urgent and please call immediately. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I spent the evening reviewing my own financial situation for the first time in years. Without the $4,000 monthly family support obligations, I could afford the downtown condo I'd been wanting, take the European vacation I'd been postponing, and actually start saving for my own retirement instead of funding everyone else's lifestyle. The financial freedom felt intoxicating. The family's panic, according to the voicemails I eventually listened to, was comprehensive. My father's first message, left at 11:47 a.m., was confused. "Rachel, honey, I got your email. I think there might be some misunderstanding. Can you call me back?" By his third message at 3:15 p.m., desperation had set in. "Rachel, your mother feels terrible about what she said. She was just overwhelmed with wedding emotions. Please don't do anything drastic. The mortgage payment is due Friday." My mother's messages progressed from indignant to pleading within hours. Her first message accused me of being vindictive and manipulative. Her fifth message, left at 8:30 p.m., was tearful. "I don't understand why you're punishing the whole family for something I said in a moment of stress." The most revealing messages came from my siblings. Jennifer's first voicemail was angry. "This is so typical of you, Rachel. Everything always has to be about money with you. Can't you just be the bigger person?" Her second message, left 6 hours later, was desperate. "My rent is due Wednesday. I can't be homeless over some stupid family drama. Please be reasonable." Michael's approach was manipulative. "Rachel, the kids are asking why Aunt Rachel doesn't love them anymore. How do I explain that their college fund disappeared because you got your feelings hurt?" David's messages were perhaps the most painful because they revealed how completely he had accepted the family narrative that I was obligated to support everyone. "Rachel, I thought you understood that family takes care of family. Sarah and I counted on you. This isn't who you are." But the most satisfying messages came from extended family members who had witnessed my mother's speech. My Aunt Patricia, my father's sister, left a message that made me smile. "Rachel, honey, I had no idea you were carrying the whole family. Your mother's comments at the wedding make a lot more sense now. Good for you for standing up for yourself. My cousin Mark, who had always seemed judgmental about my single status, texted, I owe you an apology. I always thought you were antisocial, but now I realize you were working overtime to take care of everyone. What your mom said was unforgivable. Even some of Sarah's family members reached out to express their shock and support. Sarah's mother called to say, I've never seen someone treated so badly by their own family. You deserve so much better than that. The nuclear option had worked exactly as intended. My family's financial dependence, which they had kept carefully hidden from extended family while simultaneously criticizing my lack of emotional contribution, was now public knowledge. The desperate calls continued for weeks. My parents tried every manipulation tactic in their arsenal: guilt, anger, bargaining, false apologies, and eventually genuine panic as their financial reality became clear. Without my support, they couldn't afford their mortgage. Jennifer couldn't pay her studio rent. David and Sarah couldn't maintain their apartment. Michael's children would need to transfer to public schools. The family that had functioned as a unit for 8 years was falling apart financially within 30 days. I maintained complete silence for the first month. I wanted them to fully experience what their lives looked like without my pitiful contribution. The breakthrough came when my father showed up at my office, looking older and more defeated than I'd ever seen him. Rachel, please, he said when I agreed to meet him in the lobby. I know we took you for granted. I know we treated you badly. But we're going to lose the house. The house I've been paying for? I asked calmly. Yes. I should have said that at the wedding. I should have stood up when she said those things. I was wrong. For the first time in 8 years, my father was acknowledging my financial contribution and his failure to protect me from family cruelty. What exactly do you want from me, Dad? I want to know what we can do to fix this, to make things right between us. I looked at this man who had allowed his wife to publicly humiliate me while I was secretly keeping his family solvent, and I felt something I'd never experienced before: complete emotional detachment. You can start by telling Mom that if she wants my help, she needs to make a public apology as elaborate as her public humiliation. Same venue, same guest list, same level of detail. Rachel, that's not realistic. We can't afford another party. Then I guess you'll need to find another solution. I walked away from my father for the second time in 2 months, but this time I felt powerful instead of devastated. Public apology never came, of course. Instead, my family tried various other approaches to restore their financial lifeline. Michael attempted to guilt-trip me through his children, having them call me to say they missed their aunt and didn't understand why I wasn't helping them anymore. Jennifer tried emotional manipulation, claiming that losing her studio was destroying her mental health and that I was responsible for her depression. David and Sarah tried approaching me through mutual friends, suggesting that I was sabotaging his recovery and marriage. My mother sent a written apology that was more focused on justifying her behavior than acknowledging its impact. None of these approaches worked because they all still operated from the assumption that I owed them financial support and that my feelings were less important than their financial stability. 6 months after the wedding, the consequences of their financial dependence became unavoidable. My parents lost their house and moved into a small apartment. My father's business, which had never actually recovered from its 2016 struggles, finally declared bankruptcy without my subsidies to keep it artificially afloat. Jennifer had to give up her studio and move back in with my parents, effectively ending her artistic career as she couldn't afford supplies or space for her work. David and Sarah moved in with Sarah's parents, straining their marriage as they dealt with the reality of their financial limitations without my support. Michael's children did transfer to public schools, and while this wasn't actually harmful to their education, it represented a significant lifestyle downgrade that affected the family's social status. The extended family watched this financial collapse with a mixture of sympathy and understanding. The spreadsheet I had shared made it clear that these weren't just temporary setbacks, they were the inevitable result of years of unsustainable dependence on my earnings. 12 months after cutting off support, I received an unexpected letter from David. "Rachel," he wrote, "I've been in therapy working through family dynamics, and I'm starting to understand what we did to you. Not just the financial stuff, but the way we made you responsible for everyone else's problems while treating you like you weren't really part of the family. Sarah and I are getting back on our feet, but we're doing it with our own resources and planning. I don't want money from you. I just want you to know that I finally see how wrong we were. How wrong I was. You were never there out of pity. We were lucky to have you, and we threw it away because we thought your support was guaranteed no matter how badly we treated you. I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to understand that. It was the first genuine apology I received from any family member, and it came from the person whose wedding had been the site of my public humiliation. David's letter didn't repair our relationship immediately, but it opened the door to eventual reconciliation built on respect rather than financial obligation. The others never quite reached that level of understanding. My parents still occasionally reach out asking for help with emergencies, apparently believing that enough time has passed for me to resume my ATM role. Jennifer blames me for the destruction of her artistic career, unable to acknowledge that her career was only possible because of my financial subsidies. Michael maintains that I overreacted to one comment and destroyed the family over hurt feelings, ignoring the 8 years of financial exploitation that preceded my mother's speech. My mother has never apologized for her wedding speech, instead maintaining that she misspoke due to stress and that my reaction was disproportionate. But the most important outcome of this entire experience wasn't their acknowledgement, it was my own transformation. For 8 years, I had subsidized a lifestyle for people who simultaneously criticized me for not being emotionally available enough. I had sacrificed my own financial security and life goals to maintain the illusion of a close family that was actually built on exploitation. The wedding speech that destroyed me also freed me, forced me to see clearly what I had been refusing to acknowledge, that my financial contributions hadn't earned me love, respect, or genuine inclusion. They had simply made me useful. With the $4,000 monthly obligation eliminated, I was able to buy my downtown condo within 6 months. I took the European vacation I had been postponing for years. I started dating seriously for the first time in my 30s, no longer worried about potential partners discovering my massive family financial obligations. Most importantly, I learned to distinguish between genuine family relationships and financial manipulation disguised as family loyalty. 2 years after the wedding, I'm genuinely happier than I was during the 8 years I spent trying to buy my family's love and appreciation. I've built friendships based on mutual respect rather than financial utility. I've started dating someone who values my personality and company rather than my earning potential. I've invested in my own future instead of subsidizing other people's poor financial decisions. The family that once depended on my silent support has been forced to develop genuine independence and practical life skills. While this transition was difficult for them, it was probably healthier in the long run than continued dependence on subsidies they had never acknowledged or appreciated. I don't regret the 8 years I spent supporting my family, because I genuinely believed I was investing in meaningful relationships. But I also don't regret cutting off that support when it became clear that the relationships were one-sided and built on exploitation rather than mutual care. The most valuable lesson I learned wasn't about money management or family dynamics, it was about self-respect. I learned that genuine love doesn't require financial proof, and that family members who treat you as an ATM rather than a person aren't really family in any meaningful sense. If you're currently in a situation where you're providing financial support to family members who simultaneously criticize you or treat you as less important than other relatives, I want you to know that you're not obligated to buy their approval. Your financial generosity should be appreciated, acknowledged, and reciprocated with emotional generosity. If it's not, then you're not supporting family, you're enabling exploitation. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for people who take you for granted is to stop allowing them to do so. It forces everyone involved to develop healthier, more honest relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial dependence. The family that emerges from that process may be smaller, but it will be genuine. And genuine relationships, even if they're fewer in number, are infinitely more valuable than exploitative ones subsidized by your bank account. If you enjoyed this story of family financial exploitation and the most satisfying revenge possible, please give this video a like and subscribe to True Revenge for more stories of people who chose self-respect over family obligation. Share your own experiences with family financial manipulation in the comments below. Have you ever been treated like an ATM by people who should have valued you for more than your money? Remember that your worth isn't measured by your willingness to subsidize other people's poor decisions, and that genuine family members will respect your boundaries instead of exploiting your generosity. Thank you for listening to my story of financial freedom and family justice. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be used anymore.